Rock music, the one genre that has evolved into so many subgenres that you think it's an entirely new thing. Many bands in the 90s and early 2000s took on the alternative rock genre and ran with it, but even that genre developed its own offspring. But one band from the early 2000s is able to be categorized into more than just one type of rock music, and that band is called Switchfoot. While on the shores of San Diego, the opportunity to catch some big wave surfing is endless. And for the Foreman brothers, it is a way of life. In 1996, John Foreman with his younger brother Tim and their friend Chad Butler would become the three founding fathers of what was originally dubbed as Chin Up and known to all of us now as Switchfoot, would embark on a journey that is still going to this day. The lead singer John Foreman grew up in a family of musicians and originally learned how to play the piano. However, he learned that his favorite classic rock band Led Zeppelin didn't have a piano player. From then on, he knew he needed to pick up a guitar if he wanted to follow in their footsteps. Like most startups and big things in life, it didn't start out the smoothest. For starters, they were a garage band, and practicing sets inside a small room at their parents' house with no air conditioning while working through the hot air of California wasn't the most ideal, and with just some pocket change, a cheap guitar, all while juggling school, meant for a stressful time building a musical base, but they had passion and a vision. Now relieving stress and finding ways to recover from hard times was easy for the band, and they resorted to the most important thing they all had in common, a love for surfing. While most bands in history would take the shortcut method and resort to dangerous and destructive habits like drugs to keep them going, the Foreman brothers took a different approach, and drugs was something that would never come up on their radar. They constructed the band with like-minded individuals to stay supportive of one another. The crew always had a love for the morning surf and how good the waves would be, so staying sober and living that lifestyle allowed them to have fun, even in the hardest of times. Frontman John Foreman would talk about how he let his lyrics express his emotions, and besides surfing would talk to friends to help relieve any issues he had, and figure out why he was feeling pain, to stay on track with his music. In addition, the band wasn't even sure what they wanted to name themselves, but settled with Switchfoot because of their love of surfing, and to switch your feet in surfing is to take a new stance by facing the opposite direction. And by doing this, it is a different way of approaching life and music. After playing a few shows including their dad's megachurch of North Coast Calvary Chapel in their hometown of Carlsbad, the band was contacted by music industry vet Charlie Peacock and were signed to Rethink Records and helped produce their first 3 albums titled The Legend of Chin, New Way to Be Human, and Learning to Breathe. But before the public could hear their lyrics, the label was bought out by Sparrow Records, whom was in the Christian rock scene, and crushed the band's intentions of reaching a wider audience outside of the Christian rock market. At the time, it was almost the kiss of death, and they seemed to be set up to fail. But their final album with the label received a Grammy nomination for Best Rock Gospel Album, and were very humble in their 2001 performance at the San Diego Music Awards.
How's everybody doing in San Diego tonight? It's definitely good to be here. It's probably the only chance we'll ever get to play Humphreys, so this is exciting. So this is a way.
John Foreman described the early days of being boxed into just Christian rock as when half of who we were was lost, and knew they needed to break free of this subgenre so their dreams of being a band wouldn't be lost. And in 2002, the light would start to shine at the end of the tunnel. At this time, John would try to recruit Jerome Fontamillas as the keyboard player, but was originally turned down because Jerome already had a job at an office. But 2 days into his job, he quit and joined the band. Obtaining a 4th member was great, but they were still unknown to the mainstream audience. And the Foreman brothers were debating whether or not to pursue another album or go back to school. And before 2002, I'm sure nobody would have heard a Switchfoot song on your local FM radio station for top hits. Hell, I still don't even know if my state has a Christian rock station, but that was all about to change. The movie, A Walk to Remember, was released and included 3 Switchfoot songs as well as a duet with the lead actress, and would help get the ball rolling for the band, with the single titled Dare You to Move. In what would be the band's first of many pop culture features, the film helped catch the eye of multiple labels, and the 4th album was given the green light. The album titled The Beautiful Letdown really lives up to how the album's production was going in 2003. At this time, the band had all the songs written and recorded within 2 weeks inside John Foreman's house to save on the cost. But their record label producing it told them that they believed none of the songs would be hits, and while nearing the release date, the label decided to drop the band and its project altogether. It was a crushing blow to a band that was finally starting to get some mainstream exposure. So it looked like it was time to go back to school and only perform at the neighborhood fair festival, right? Well, not so much. The music giant Columbia Records stepped in and signed them to their smaller label named Red Ink Records, along with up-and-coming producer John Fields, gave Switchfoot their first big break. However, the Red Ink label was like AAA baseball and was very small, basically making the band think that the label only had a finite amount of faith in it being a hit. But the band knew they still were on a team with one final shot left. So with Lady Luck on their side, and with an album comprised with songs the members personally felt were major hits, they released the album on February 25, 2003, and the entire world heard and gave their final verdict about Switchfoot. With the number 18 song in the nation titled Meant to Live leading the way, paired with Dare You to Move, receiving a quick refresh, the album skyrocketed in sales and sold 14,000 copies in just the first week, and would go on to sell over 3 million copies to date. The album became certified triple platinum and spent 118 weeks on the Billboard Top 200 charts, resulting in the record for 10th longest run of the 2000s. At the 35th GMA Awards, the album won the award for the Rock and Contemporary Album of the Year, while the track Meant to Live won the award for Rock and Contemporary Recorded Song of the Year, along with being nominated for the Song of the Year. Other tracks like Ammunition won the award for Rock Recorded Song of the Year, and the track Gone was nominated for the award as well. Meant to Live was nominated again for Song of Year at the following GMA Dove Awards along with Dare You to Move, which won the award for the Rock and Contemporary Recorded Song of the Year. The album won the awards for the Album of the Year and the Best Pop Album at the 2003 San Diego Music Awards, while Dare You to Move won the award for the Song of the Year. Now that was a mouthful, but the band delivered some great hits. In addition, the album's artwork was also special. Originally, John Foreman purchased a pawn store guitar in Atlanta and wanted to smash it in half and set it on fire. But after he grew attached to the guitar and the hotel wouldn't allow them to burn it, they settled on leaving it at the bottom of a hotel pool in northern LA. The guitar is still in use by Foreman in shows to this day. Personally, I felt the album had a classic rock vibe to it with Meant to Live, Gone, and Ammunition taking charge as the main rock songs, and that would help start in moving the band away from the Christian rock umbrella and into the mainstream alternative rock genre that was booming in the late 90s and early 2000s. And this resulted in more pop culture exposure. In the fall of 2004, Dare You to Move was featured as an intro song for the NASCAR race at Talladega Superspeedway, highlighting the previous race at the Dover International Speedway during the inaugural chase for the Cup Championship season. It may have been displayed to a sport the band members might not follow, but any publicity helps, right? Then for the film Spider-Man 2, a special music video was produced for Meant to Live. While in the United Kingdom, the film's alternate soundtrack included the song on its release. Needless to say, the public reception wanted a follow-up to the album, so Switchfoot went to work on album number 5, Nothing Is Sound. But before work was started on the album, the band had another vision: to give back to the community. In January of 2005, before recording the record, the band made a trip to several South African villages and saw all the homelessness the infants had to deal with. And on their flight home from Australia, the band discussed how they loved their hometown of San Diego, whom itself had a child homeless issue, and the foundation with the event named Broam was born. Every year on Moonlight Beach, the foundation puts on a free musical performance, which has now become the benefit party, and a surfing contest, which is now the Beach Fest, and numerous companies and countless individuals give generously year after year to raise awareness and funds for local nonprofits that support deserving local youth. As they constructed the charity, they focused on recording the new record, which included adding a 5th member to the band, guitarist Drew Shirley. The record included another mega mainstream hit, the song Stars, a commonly requested song by fans at concerts to this day. In addition, a personal favorite of mine, The song titled Lonely Nation was the first track on the album's track list, with We Are One Tonight closing it out. The song was featured on ads for the 2006 Turin Winter Olympics as well. With Shirley coming on board, the album had a rock-heavy sound with a focus on strong guitar riffs. This all resulted in placing third on the Billboard Top 200 chart, which was a new record high for the band. In addition, the band experimented with YouTube, which was in its early days of popularity, and posted podcasts and updates through the 2006 spring leg of their tour on the platform. While the band was riding the waves of success, they constructed album number 6 titled Oh Gravity as a Christmas release in 2006. It was the 10th anniversary of the band, and included the hit album-titled song Oh Gravity and American Dream, which are more traditional rock-sounding songs we've been accustomed to hearing from the band. But most of the album represented a departure from the densely layered rock sound they are known for. It was an attempt to find the balance between spit and polish, and take a more pop-like sound approach. The song Awakening was the catalyst for this, and even though the music video on YouTube quickly grossed 1 million views, the mainstream radio did not give the band much airtime. The record was critically acclaimed and entered the Billboard chart at number 18, while it peaked at number 1 on iTunes Top Albums charts. So another record with another song and album on the charts should mean that their label would welcome them with open arms, right? Well, not so much. As 2007 approached, the music industry is seeing another genre getting all the exposure: rap and R&B music. It was all the rage in the mid to late 2000s with 50 Cent and Chris Brown, and to this day rap music is on the top of the mountain. When Columbia Records and Switchfoot mutually agreed to part ways after many employees that were friends of Switchfoot lost their jobs, the band knew they needed to change things up. With some capital from all their success, they developed their own studio titled Lowercase People Records. Sounds kinda odd, huh? But they wanted it to seem down to earth and not some big corporate entity, so their fans felt connected. And what came out of it was great. They worked on an EP titled The Best Yet, which included the song This Is Home, which was featured in the blockbuster movie The Chronicles of Narnia, and eventually on ESPN's special feature called Titletown USA. Surprisingly, the public response was lukewarm, and the song never really became a huge hit through the airwaves despite the pop culture exposure. They did manage to raise over $100,000 for Habitat for Humanity from the song Rebuild on their tour with Reliant K.
I guess music, for me, is finding my way back home in a song. It's not like you always get there. In fact, maybe you never quite get there. That's why you keep writing. That's why you keep singing. Always pushing for something more.
Just like when the United States won its independence after the Revolutionary War, freedom comes with responsibility, and there were some hardships that go with it. With Hello Hurricane, the band members were constantly trying to improve on each song and seemed to struggle with believing their songs were good enough to put their names to it. This resulted in over 2 years of development, and the hardest album all the members recorded together. That paired with building their own studio pushed the band to their limits. But the rewards at the end were spectacular, and it became one for the record books. Hello Hurricane was album number 7 in 2009, and it brought the band to new heights. The album delivered the band their first ever Grammy Award and helped keep the band and its fan base united. While the song Hello Hurricane gets all the spotlight, my favorite song from the album is Needle in a Haystack Life, mainly due to the old-school rock guitar sound, and it was featured during primetime for ABC's college Saturday night football games as the theme introduction.
Aaron Thomas is leading Oregon toward uncharted territory. What a game this figures to be. For USC, trick or treating last year in Eugene, Oregon proved devastating. When Oregon turned the lights out on their guests from Southern California, there were tire marks all over the backs of the Trojans. Ghosts and goblins were celebrating throughout the Northwest, and they just kept on coming. Well, it is time to celebrate Halloween once again. But this year, USC quarterback Matt Barkley is playing in his house. Barkley's pregame ritual is built around his faith. He moves to the sound of gospel. And tonight, he's determined to chase the goblins away from the Coliseum.
The old saying, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, applies to most things. But Switchfoot wanted to change things up. When you become your own boss, you first believe things will be easier and bring you less stress, but the band were their biggest critics. They put themselves through the ringer by never giving up and produced a great album. Part of their influence for the album was from the survivors of Hurricane Katrina in Louisiana, and after witnessing the destruction the citizens had to deal with and rebuild from, they knew the only choice they had was to come together and deliver a polished album worthy of a Grammy Award. And it set the standard for the future.
As a songwriter, what I'm looking for are the ones that are worth singing. I'm trying to find the pieces of myself that are worth talking about, the pieces of myself that I'm comfortable talking about. For me, it's a fine balance of finding the things that tear you up inside, then looking beyond those things to find hope. Vice Versa for me is the story, the journey. Music for me has always been about a search for joy, a search for wonder. I guess without wonder, nothing can be wonderful. And that's what's keeping me making these guys. Search for wonder.
As a new decade approached, another album came in the name of Vice Versa. And as always, a theme for the album was decided on, and it was simply in the form of hope.
We wanted to be a band that sang songs of hope. Hope is the idea that you're opening the doors and the windows of the soul to look at a story bigger than yourself.
To kick off the track list, the first single was actually debuted at an acoustic benefit show by John Foreman before the release of Hello Hurricane in 2009. He told everyone it was going to be for the following album after Hello Hurricane, and fans were beginning for its release. And now in 2011, it was time to get the song called Dark Horses. The hit single was written to show how much they wanted to give the homeless kids of San Diego hope that their lives will improve and shine the spotlight on them, while encouraging others to find a way out of the hardships they're faced in after being dealt a bad hand in life. After the song was a hit, it appeared on more college football games as intro songs, and tied their song Meant to Live at placing 5th on the Billboard Alternative Songs. The song Afterlife was another hit song that has its roots engraved in the album's focus on hope and the idea of the polarity of life. It's about the importance of living in the present, taking control of your fate, and not simply awaiting the afterlife to make up for it. At the 2013 Dove Awards, it was nominated for the Rock/Contemporary Song of the Year. Keeping with the theme of the album, the song Where I Belong is about true belonging, purpose, and acceptance, and uses metaphors to depict the struggles of life and the search for a community where one's values are shared.
Where I Belong is a really important song for us. I think that someday when we break up, that'll be the last song that we play. It's a song that is about the idea that we are sojourners here on the planet, passing through, and someday our pilgrimage through this life will be over. The beginning of the end of the beginning, the final breath.
The band says that this record is different from their previous records in that it is driven more by the drums and bass, whereas their previous records were driven more by guitar. The music is rooted heavily in the rhythm section, consisting of Chad Butler's drum work and Tim Foreman's bass work, which the editor heard was a more swampier heavy metal sound, and was another way the band is able to alter their sound and do it tastefully under the rock genre. The album ranked 8th on its debut for the Billboard 200, and this would help build more momentum for their next project.
See, my dad was a singer in a rock band. It was the 1970s, and we went on tour together all over the country. He was my hero. I looked up to him so much, and wanted to be like him. My dad has always showed me he loved me through his words and his kindness, but most of all, by spending time with me. Music has always been our common bond. I love playing music with my dad, and he taught me early on that music is powerful, that it moves people, and that songs can open up a conversation about things that really matter. For me, music is about community. It's about the communal experience. The family that we have in the band is the most important thing. We have an amazing relationship. For us recording the album, touring the songs, I think that connection that we have transfers to delivering the music to our audience and involving our audience in the discussion, in the dialogue.
Fading West was the next album to be produced, and it was a major success. While they were on the international leg of their Vice Versus tour, they decided they would record it with a documentary showing it. Drummer Chad Butler produced the documentary, and the reason for all of this is because they wanted to be inspired by all the locations and surroundings they go to while performing and surfing. However, the Switchfoot fan base seemed to be split on the new sound they went with. As a fan, I enjoyed it and felt the bit of pop they added to the music was done well, but for future albums it should have taken a backseat again. Some roadblocks came up in the roughest ways as John Foreman had to head back home as his daughter had to get emergency surgery, and the band had to continue part of the tour without him until later on. The band knew the reason they make music is for their family, and it only helps reinforce the fact that they have a strong bond together and support one another. When the record was released, all the hard work and hoops they had to go through to achieve their goals was about to come front and center. It was 9 years since they had an album chart inside the top 10 on the Billboard Top 200, but Fading West broke that streak and topped out at number 6, becoming the second highest album to date behind Nothing Is Sound. The first 3 songs released were Who We Are, Love Alone Is Worth the Fight, Let It Out, and the 4th one appeared on The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, called When We Come Alive. I remember catching this segment live after watching the NASCAR race from Darlington in May, and it got myself back into listening to Switchfoot. In addition, some of the tracks that are underrated come towards the end of the track list. Slipping Away is a great song along with bass, with Back to the Beginning again hitting a more Hello Hurricane vibe. However, the new pop sound makes the songs sound like they are more useful for movies and shows rather than radio, and help aid in the scenic presentation of the Fading West rock and surf documentary they put out. Nonetheless, the band altered the genre again and made it work. Fading West has sold over 100,000 copies and was garnered critical acclaim by multiple music critics. In addition, it topped the Billboard Christian Albums and Top Alternative Albums charts and reached number 2 on the Rock Albums chart. And for the first time ever, it charted in the country of Switzerland. During the documentary, the members mentioned that they cannot believe they're all still together and able to share the moments with their families even if they're away on tour, and can appreciate one another because of their chemistry. They know most bands don't last as long as they have, and they don't want to stop. And it really sums up their first decade of constant success as a band and as individuals.
Music to me is a voice, my voice. It's my way of expressing what colors can I bring in, what emotion, what feeling, what idea can I bring out of these instruments that would make this song come alive. To me, that's the best part of being a musician. It's my way of expressing. It's my voice that I want to bring out into this song.
As with all their records, the band tailors the theme of hope into all their songs. They believe hope is the anchor that pulls you in and is what the band wants to be about. And with this album, they finally wrote a song in dedication called Hope is the Anthem.
Many times, the very thing that you're fighting is the thing that you need. It's about letting go that you actually receive what you're looking for. Hope is that anchor in the future that pulls you towards it, that draws you in. I'm a songwriter, so I think in terms of song. That's the way I see the world. And sometimes it just feels like chaos. It feels like the wrong notes are all there is. But I believe that the conductor of time and space is still yet bringing resolution to this broken symphony that we live in. And that is my hope. That is what keeps me going. That's what keeps me singing. When things
Another song that would keep the classic Switchfoot sound rolling into the record was Holy Water, which is my personal favorite from the album and even features John only on vocals with no guitar. As far as the remaining tracks, it really stays diverse. Most songs have a newer slow pop sound, paired with what sounds like a hip-hop song called Looking for America, and might be the first ever song they had someone else featured on it. It may not have all worked out as well as many classic Switchfoot fans wanted, but they went on tour with Relient K, and the record managed to rank in the top 10 on the Billboard Top 200.
I love guitar tones. I love finding them. I guess what I do is collect tones. Stuff has a story. You can take a piece of it with you and implement it in what you do today. Old music, old cars, old guitars, old amps, old photography, old chairs. You can take all those things and put them into what you're doing musically. And that's what I love to do.
After a short hiatus, the band went to work on the 2019 record, Native Tongue, and 2021's Interrobang. However, as previously mentioned, the updated pop sound they acquired was starting to run stale and rear its ugly head. Pop may be the gateway to mainstream radio, but if it's not your bread and butter, then you can't keep on milking the same cow, and it didn't resonate with the public either. Personally, I was bored with the albums and are the only two albums where the songs don't do it for me. I only wanted to touch on these two records briefly because I think the band members know going back to their roots with a harder alternative rock sound is what the fan base wants. Fading West may have had the fan base divided, and the brakes needed to be applied after testing those waters. While always considered a Christian rock band, the members made it clear they wanted to steer away from that label, and that being Christian is about faith, not a music genre, and the songs are made for everyone. But they made a special Christmas album in 2022. However, Drew Shirley left the band earlier in the year, so it was back to a four-man band. The record contained classic Christmas songs with Switchfoot's own twist on them along with their own original material. The songs can take darker tones to bright, happy songs. The final record recorded by Switchfoot was the 2023 reissue of The Beautiful Letdown as they celebrated the 20th anniversary of the historic album. It changed their lives, and along with many fans and many big-name artists in the music industry, covered some of the album's biggest hits. Relient K, Owl City, Ryan Tedder, John Bellion, and most notably the Jonas Brothers were just some of the big names that did covers, while Switchfoot re-recorded and even updated some lyrics. I went to my first ever Switchfoot concert and finally got to hear Meant to Live. The album was perceived well by fans, and as we are in the middle of 2025, hopefully a new record that mirrors it will come in the future. Through all the twists and turns the industry can throw at a band, they manage to always find a way to positively impact someone's life. A cast of characters, spending time jamming out after school hours, striving to be something different, resulted in a cult following, even if the mainstream radio wanted none of it. A band that didn't crash out and break up after a short run of success like many bands do, helped show how a strong foundation and drive to be great musicians results in a long-lasting relationship. From painting their band shirts in their hotel room the night before their gigs just to pay for the gas in their truck, to selling out arenas night after night, has made the band a major success story. Switchfoot reminds me of that driver and race team that has a championship or two in the trophy case at home, but never has their name in the neighborhood bus. The underrated cast of characters puts business first to get the job done. What they have achieved puts them in an elite group, but as always, the ones that don't have the flashy moments to catch the spotlight will get overshadowed by those with the one huge moment. The whole talk softly and carry a big stick quote is manly, a motto the band follows. Let me put it this way, Switchfoot uses this motto as a system for decision-making. In result, they are rewarded with a long-term natural high, which results in a career that has lasted nearly 30 years and is healthy, while others look for the short-term superstardom and it never lasts or brings them to the long-lasting promised land. Funny how a natural high always wins out, and I don't think the band members would want it any other way.